Iowa's News Now presents exclusive footage and interviews to reveal the real impact of Caitlin Clark on the game of basketball and beyond. This is Changing the Game, the Caitlin Clark Effect.
We are certainly in the middle of a special era for women's athletics, and Iowa is a key catalyst in all of it. Mitch Fick here with Owen Siebring, and we are going to spend the next half hour looking at the changing landscape, and it is certainly a lot more than just selling out arenas and conference tournaments. Definitely a sign of the times and what Caitlin is able to do over her career.
Yeah, and she is changing the entire game. Her impact is so much wider than just in Iowa and just college basketball. She has hundreds of adoring fans screaming her name following every Hawkeye game. Her stardom and national celebrity is something we have never seen from an Iowa athlete, and maybe never from any collegiate athlete. Sponsorship deals with Nike, State Farm, Hy-Vee, just to name a few. Her newest one, Gainbridge Financial. They are the title sponsor for the Indiana Fever's home arena, her likely future WNBA team in about a month. But right now, the Caitlin Clark era is in Iowa City. It's nearly over now. 2 more games at Carver Hawkeye Arena for Caitlin in the NCAA tournament. That means 2 more opportunities for Hawkeye fans to witness her greatness in person, and there's a reason fans of all ages are showing up in the thousands to watch her play at Big Ten arenas. It's hard to believe that her legendary career began only 4 years ago in a building with not a single fan allowed inside. Pay close attention, because these next few seconds were the beginning of a career that changed the trajectory of a sport. November 25th, 2020, a minute and 2 seconds into a game played in a mostly empty building because of the COVID-19 pandemic. That was the first field goal ever scored by the woman who has now reinvented women's college basketball.
There was like no one here. I saw some clips of me playing the other day. I was like, oh man, I look a lot different. My hair's a lot longer. I'm very, very scrawny. I have absolutely no muscle definition. I think that's the biggest thing. It feels like just yesterday I was playing that game with nobody in the stands, and it's just kind of cool to see the evolution of, you know, what this has become, and it's been cool to kind of watch that evolution since I've stepped on campus as well.
Evolution might not even be a strong enough word here. It is impossible to think that over those next 4 seasons, Caitlin would go from playing in front of an empty Carver to sellout games at home and on the road. Fans lining up for hours to see her play on opposing courts, the centerpiece of national conversations.
Caitlin Clark is a stone cold dog.
I'm gonna go on the record and say she's the best female collegiate player ever.
The most expensive women's basketball card ever sold bears Caitlin's signature. The woman had her likeness shaped out of butter. Is there any level of Iowa fame that could possibly top that? Even Caitlin could never have dreamed of taking the game this far.
I think my 6-year-old self would be proud of where I am, proud of the way I've worked for this more than anything. You know, nothing was ever given, and just work hard every single day and try to make your dreams come true.
That's something she hopes to pass on to the next generation of basketball players. Every game you can find Caitlin among her legions of adoring fans in every state, signing autographs, taking pictures. A vision, we hope, not just for now, but possibly what the future of this game might look like.
It's not just women's basketball. She has touched the world, and she's gracious enough to bring people along with her.
And I think that just shows like how far impact reaches. Like, people just love our team. They love the role models we have on this team. They're, you know, just attracted to the way we play a competitive sport and the team aspect of sport. I wish I could make time for every single kid that's standing there screaming my name. If I can make somebody's year or month or, you know, second, I really want to be able to try to do that, even if it's a couple autographs.
Even her coaches are not immune to the Caitlin Clark effect. After she broke the NCAA scoring record against Michigan, not only were Clark's eyes filled with the emotions of the moment, but even Coach Bluter couldn't help but stand in admiration of this young woman who's changing the game.
I couldn't imagine this. There's no way. There's just no way you can even fathom this as a little kid growing up when I did in pre-Title IX. Is unimaginable.
Making the unimaginable a reality. It's taken Caitlin Clark only 4 years to become the most famous athlete in America and put her sport on a platform where it has never been before. Just imagine what she can do next.
Well, let's go back to the BC era before Caitlin. Iowa women's basketball brought big crowds on occasion, but they'd only ever officially sold out Colorado Hawkeye Arena twice, 1985 and 1988, when Vivian Stringer was coaching the Hawkeyes. We'd seen a lot of fans for different games during Sam Logic and Megan Gustafson's days, but Caitlin in this group the last couple of seasons up in the ante in a big, big way. Last year, Iowa sold out 6 games. This season, they sold out the whole home schedule. They were out of season tickets by August. Almost every road game was a sellout too. Even other teams' fans wanting to come see Caitlin and the Hawks. Quite the swing from Lisa Bluter's playing days more than 40 years ago.
I am thrilled with where we are right now. I mean, you have to remember that I played in the 70s and there was barely 50 people in the stands when I played. And now to this year, we played in front of over 55,000 people in Kinnick.
Our fans have always supported women's basketball before I stepped on campus. Obviously, it's a little bit of a different level now, but you know what Coach Bluter's built here, you know, there's always been tremendous fan support. And that's what I wanted to play in front of. I want to play in front of people that support women's athletics. I want to play in front of people that understand what's going on when you're playing. And obviously it was different my freshman year, but just to see how it's grown to my senior year is super, super special. And I think the people are definitely what made me want to stay.
And it's not just inside the arenas. She and the Hawkeyes are appointment television every night they step on the floor. Big Ten title game Sunday between Iowa and Nebraska was the most watched conference tournament game ever on network television. It averaged over 3 million viewers nationwide, and keep in mind that game started at 9 a.m. on the West Coast. Their last regular season game with Ohio State drew almost 3.4 million viewers. It was the most watched regular season women's college basketball game since 1999, when America watched a showdown between the two titans of the time, UConn and Tennessee. Iowa set records for the most watched games on 6 separate networks this year: ABC, Big Ten Network, Fox, FS1, NBC, and Peacock. Last year's national title game with LSU averaged 9.9 million viewers, more than double of the previous record.
I think, you know, across the board at the NCAA level, it's growing. Whether you look at the Women's College World Series, whether you look at, you know, whatever it is, whatever sport, you can list it, and it's growing. People want to watch when you're given an opportunity and put on this stage. You know, people show up and people want to pay attention, and I think you're especially seeing that in women's basketball, being able to be a role model for all those young girls, but also young boys too. I think there's a lot of young boys that look up to us, and people young and old, you know, idolize our team, and you know, that's one of the coolest things.
So you've got more fans watching women's sports, both in the arena and on TV and streaming. There's also more participation for girls' youth sports in the U.S., while it's dropping on the boys' side. That data comes from the Sports and Fitness Industry Association. It shows there are still more boys than girls out for youth sports overall, but boys' participation is down 20% in the last decade, from 50% overall to 40%. 35% of girls are out for youth sports right now. That's the biggest percentage we've seen on that side in more than 10 years. Is that all the Caitlin Clark effect? No, but a lot of young fans do say she's inspiring them.
I just started my first basketball season this year.
And why did you join basketball? Why did you start liking basketball?
Because Caitlin Clark inspired me.
I started in 5th grade. I've been playing for about a year, and I really like it so far. And I really like Caitlin too. She's really inspired me. Because Caitlin inspired me, it's like hard to believe that she got that many points and broke that record. And I want to play in college women's basketball and become like her.
Some of the biggest factors in youth sports participation, though, are opportunity and a family's household income. The group Project Play says fewer than 1 in 4 kids from families making less than 25 grand a year are in sports. For kids from families making close to 6 figures, participation is up over 40%.
Coming up next on Changing the Game, the Caitlin Clark effect. Beth Getz is one of only a few women leading athletics at a Power 5 school. I go one-on-one in an exclusive interview with the new Iowa athletics director about her view on women's sports. While Caitlin Clark is shattering expectations of a women's college basketball player, Iowa's new athletics director, Beth Getz, is one of a small handful of female ADs at Power 5 schools around the country. I had the opportunity to visit with Beth to discuss a historic first year in Iowa City. There was a question recently posed to Caitlin Clark about what 6-year-old Caitlin would say about where she is right now. What would 6-year-old Beth say about where she is right now?
Well, I have to look back a little farther than Caitlin did to get to 6 years old. But I think growing up, I always loved sports. My mother loved sports. We played everything we could get our hands on. I was the oldest of 4 girls, and I think having an opportunity just to enjoy what you do every day and be around people and a part of a team, I would have been really excited about.
Didn't you always believe that you could do a job like this? Your first assistant athletic director position, I believe, was in 2000, when I don't imagine there were a lot of other female administrators out there. Did you ever have any doubt that you could do a position like this as a female?
I've been really fortunate because I've had such great champions throughout my career that I never really thought about it from a gender perspective. I had women who had supported me and great men that had been in leadership roles who encouraged me along the way. And it was just a little bit about how could you learn as much as you can, get comfortable in many areas as you can across a department. And then see where it took me.
We've heard Caitlin Clark talk about how much it's important to her to want to be a role model and set an example for the young girls out there that are watching her. Do you feel some of that same, maybe not pressure, but do you feel that same responsibility a little bit to set an example for young girls who are watching you as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that would be true in any role, that you always want to make sure that you're setting an example for anybody that's looking towards you. I do think that they look and see, hey, here's a place where you have some women that are in unique positions, and with President Barbara Wilson and others. Obviously, the history of Dr. Christine Grant here at Iowa. It's a unique time, and you take that responsibility really seriously.
When you think about your playing days, either as a high school or a collegiate athlete, could you have imagined what it is right now?
Well, first of all, I never think about my playing experience in the same sentence as what Caitlin or any of the young women on our team have accomplished. But no, in my lifetime, there's been moments I've been able to see. Soccer was my sport, the Women's World Cup, going back a couple decades now, that drew so many eyes. I think the true appreciation, the admiration for the women's game, for her game, but for the game of women's basketball, and how many people it's brought out. I mean, you've got some true fans that enjoy watching those games, and I think this moment is going to extend in time, so it's really exciting.
How does women's basketball as a whole, and maybe even more specifically the University of Iowa, continue this momentum? How does this not just become a flash in the pan with Caitlin Clark here, but keep it going into the future as well?
Yeah, a credit to them, but I think that they've really let people into this journey with them, and so it wasn't just about appreciating a victory or an exciting moment or even the tournament run. They got to know how they operated, the way they played. Again, the game is just a little bit different than the men's game, and there's lots of stars. I mean, who doesn't want to come back and see Hannah Stolke running down, putting a basket in with that big smile on her face? And so, I think that spotlight has shined on other stars and shined on the team and the game as a whole.
Wrestling for Her, the special season for Iowa's new women's wrestling program, and the impact an Iowa wrestling trailblazer made more than a decade ago that helped lay the groundwork for the girls and women wrestling today. Very first season competing in college women's wrestling, and the Iowa Hawkeyes win their first national championship, beating North Central by only 6 points. This past weekend, 6 Hawkeyes claim individual national titles. Emily Gonzalez, Ava Bayless, Felicity Taylor, Reese Laramendi, Marlon Deedy, and Kylie Welker became national champions, also securing automatic qualification to wrestle at the Olympic trials ahead of the Paris Games this summer. 6 Hawkeyes have a special bond and a tattoo that reads "For Her." Team members adopted the phrase as their motto, and they break the huddle with that slogan at every practice. Inspired by the late Dr. Christine Grant, a pioneer in women's sports who served as Iowa's women's athletic director and a champion of the Title IX movement, they are wrestling for the next generation of little girls who will grow up to wear not only the black and gold singlet, but any others across the country.
Wrestling for Her wasn't on Cassie Herkelman's mind back in 2011 when she became the first girl in Iowa to win a match at the boys' state tournament. At the time, she was one of 2 girls to even qualify ever. But now, Cassie Jacobek, as she's known, realizes she played an important role in helping the sport grow into what it is today. Cassie's also now navigating another male-dominated field. She's a police officer in Waterloo, and she's looking back at her career with Iowa's News Now reporter Kaylee Whitlatch at the Dan Gable Wrestling Museum.
Cassie Herkelman-Jacobek started wrestling at a young age after roughhousing with her family one night.
My grandma joked with me, like, you should wrestle. I told my dad, and he didn't really believe me at first, and then we started wrestling in 2nd grade.
You were wrestling with boys at the time, right? Because there was no girls' team.
Yeah, so I was one of very few in the state.
As a young girl, Cassie became more and more interested in the sport, competing in junior tournaments across the country to compete against girls. But she says her gender never got in the way of her passion.
I mean, it wasn't until junior high school when people started like saying that it shouldn't happen or they shouldn't wrestle a girl. But all through elementary school, I didn't know the difference. With wrestling, I definitely had to prove myself. I had like teammates kind of doubt me my freshman year. Just like thought I was going out as a joke.
But Cassie qualified for the boys state championships in 2011. She and one other female wrestler competed there against boys. Cassie ended up being the first girl to win a wrestling match at the state contest after a boy forfeited the match.
The attention was almost annoying. I signed up for the sport. I got myself to the state tournament. I didn't deserve any extra attention because I did exactly what any other boy does to make it to that state tournament.
Back then, less than 40 girls in Iowa participated in wrestling. Now thousands do in high school and college.
What's surprising is how far behind the state of Iowa was in women's wrestling when Iowa was known for their wrestling. These girls have opportunities that I never had, and it's awesome that they have their own state tournament.
Cassie became a 2-time All-American wrestler at McKendree University in Illinois. She helped coach girls wrestling at Denver and Cedar Falls the past few years, all while working as a 3rd-generation police officer in Waterloo, another male-dominated area.
I had to prove myself, gain the respect, and I think it's kind of the same thing in law enforcement.
In sports and in the workforce, she believes women are still facing some challenges.
I wouldn't say that barriers are completely gone, but I would definitely say that there's less and less.
Even more progress is being made by national champion Iowa women's wrestling team and the Hawkeye women's basketball team.
I feel like I could go on and talk about the state of women's sports. I think it's in a really great place.
You see Caitlin Clark in women's sports, obviously at the national level, making waves. What do you think about her pushing forward with women's sports?
I think she's definitely gaining a lot of attention, and watching some of Caitlin Clark's like post-game interviews, I don't think she's like asking for the attention because she's a very humble individual. I think Caitlin goes out there and she plays the sport that she loves and she's good at it.
In her time as a young athlete, Cassie felt the same, never thinking she was making a difference in her sport, rather wrestling because it was just something she wanted to do.
I set my mind to it and I did it. Don't let people talk you out of something that you want to do on your own. It's your life and live it.
Before there was Caitlin, there was Megan, a conversation with former Hawkeye and National Player of the Year Megan Gustafson about what Caitlin Clark can expect in her next chapter.
Even with the Caitlin Clark craze these last few seasons, I'm sure Hawkeye fans still remember Megan Gustafson breaking all the program records only 5 short years ago. Megan's currently living in London and took the time to visit with us about how she's trying to change the game on another continent. Caitlin Clark is the shooting star selling out arenas, but Hawkeye fans surely have not forgotten the legend of Megan Gustafson. Iowa's clear-cut GOAT before Caitlin stepped on campus. Megan is in the midst of creating her own brand as a star on the London Lions of the Women's British Basketball League.
Gustafson, beast it to the basket. There's the roar, there's the Lion.
We're rewriting the history books right now, and I hope that for British basketball's sake, that London can keep setting that standard. You know, in the beginning of the season when I was here, we hardly had any fans, but now we're getting 1,500 and 2,000 plus, which has been really exciting. We won the British Trophy final, and there was probably 9,000 people there. When we keep winning, we keep bringing people in and drawing them in. That brings a lot of fans to the away games as well as the home games.
A remarkable parallel to exactly what we've seen with the Hawkeyes, who have played their last 25 consecutive games in front of a sold-out crowd. In many ways, Megan has helped lay a foundation for Caitlin. She's gone through the struggles of transitioning from the college game to the WNBA, where some believe Caitlin will struggle once she goes pro. But Megan doesn't see that as an issue.
Gustafson answers with a 3.
I think she's gonna do great, honestly, off the bat. Just like watching how she's played, she's gonna have a huge target on her back. People are gonna be excited that she's in the league, but they're gonna want to show what they can do against her. I think the physicality is gonna be her biggest hurdle for sure. It's a war. It is a absolute war. Every single day. It is not easy, but I'm excited. I think she's gonna embrace that. I think she's gonna be probably excited to be a rookie again and to learn. And
Megan sees one aspect of Caitlin's game that will need improvement as she takes the next step in her career.
WNBA emphasizes defense, and that's a really important part about being respected in the league, quite honestly. And so that's something she's going to have to face. That's something I faced, still facing. I don't love defense. I'm going to admit that. Like, I'm an offensive player, and I know Caitlin is too. So I would just say, to her, like, try to love defense too. I know it's hard, but definitely just try to find ways to improve. Watch film on yourself. Always get in the gym, be the first one in, last one out. Focusing on what the coaches want specifically for your role and perfecting that to a T is going to be really important for her.
Megan and her London Lions team are the first British team to qualify for the Euro Cup final, which will be played next month. Then come the summertime, she's going to be back in America, where she signed a contract with the Las Vegas Aces, a team that's won the last 2 WNBA championships.
Of course, the Indiana Fever might have something to say about a three-peat. We'll see. The Iowa's News Now sports team is getting ready to cover Caitlin Clark and the Hawkeyes' chase for an NCAA championship throughout the tournament. We're going to find out their potential road to the Final Four on Sunday. That'll be in Cleveland this year, so a little shorter drive for Hawkeye fans than Dallas, and for crews maybe covering them. We are hoping to see you there.